Before we begin, I want to make a quick statement. Although I want to make this Let's Play entertaining, I also want to make it informative, sort of like Bill Nye the Science Guy.
65 million years ago!
I love that guy. With that being said, I'm going to be doing something different with this episode, and we'll continue on in future episodes. I will do a quick commentary over the Robot Master montage that I put at the beginning of each Robot Master, and it will explain the enemies and the level in and of itself as a whole. And with that being said, I'm going to be describing the other levels that we missed. We'll start off with Gunsman's level first, and Gunsman's level has one of the most iconic and versatile enemies in Mega Man history, the Met Hall, or Met for short. The Met Hall in this game, however, has a very basic premise. Shoot 3 bullets simultaneously. One in the 7 o'clock position, one in the 9 o'clock position, and one in the 12 o'clock position. Very simple enemy, not much to worry about. Next up we have, and in my opinion this is probably one of the most irritating Mega Man enemies ever, the Blader. Now the reason that the Blader is so annoying is because it is going to dive bomb you to death, and there's not much you can do about it because it is usually 10 feet above your head where you can't jump. But what you want to do as it's dive bombing you is you want to try to shoot it, or if you can, jump to a certain point so that it thinks you're in that point and dive bombs that point. Next up we have Picket Man, and the Picket Man is probably another one of those irritating bosses. Not as irritating as the Blader, but still pretty irritating. The Picket Man, his basic premise is to throw pickaxes at you. What you can do is you can go back 3 steps, jumping every now and again, but when you're taking the 3 steps forward, you want to try and fire at him. That's about the best you can do for that guy. Next we have the Big Eye, and the Big Eye is probably one of the most terrifying enemies in Mega Man. Don't worry though, they're not in any other game. The Big Eye is basically going to take about 20 shots to kill, and its attack pattern is very randomly based, so if you can dodge its attacks, you are pretty good. Finally we have the Screw Bomber, and the Screw Bomber is pretty simple to kill. If you get far enough away from it, it won't attack you. But in order to kill it on the ground, when it's on the same level as you are, you have to approach it. But the best way to do that is to avoid the spray of bullets that it shoots 3 times in a row before actually going back down into its hole. Otherwise, you can jump over it, you can do anything you want with it as long as you can get out of the way of its attacks. Kite-Man's level introduces the Beak, and the Beak has a similar premise to the Met, although it cannot shoot simultaneously. It will shoot 4 bullets at one time, one in the 11 o'clock position, one in the 10 o'clock position, one in the 9 o'clock position, and one in the 8 o'clock position. Once it is done firing, it will draw itself in and you will not be able to shoot it. Next up we have the Super Cutter, and the Super Cutter usually is being shot out of a box at the top of a ladder. There's not much point to killing a Super Cutter. You can, but there's not much point to it because it's only on the screen for about maybe half a second. Next up we have the Flea, and the Flea will continue to jump straight at you until you are dead. The thing about the Flea, however, is that it doesn't have control over where it goes after it has jumped. It can only continue to move straight forward, so if you want to kill it, you can either shoot it before it can jump, you can let it go off of the screen, or you can let it fall into a pit. Next up we have the Octopus Battery, and the Octopus Battery can do only one of 2 things, move up and down or left and right. So they're probably very easy to kill. The only thing they really have going for them is that they take a lot of shots to kill in general. Finally we have the Flying Shell, and the Flying Shell has a simple premise, to shoot a simultaneous circular pattern of bullets. The only place that it appears is in Cutman's level, and it never appears anywhere else, so there's really not much point in describing any more than that. Now, Gunsman's level overall is not that difficult. The only real difficulty comes at the beginning of the level where you have those moving platforms. Otherwise, it's pretty simple to get through. Very self-explanatory, just a bunch of enemies to kill. Nothing too special about his level, but if you don't watch your step, you could end up getting killed. Now, as for Cutman's level in general, Cutman's level really isn't too much of a challenge if you really think about it. There's not much to it, there's really nothing going for it except the various enemies that appear in the game, so really I'm not going to talk too much about it.